Anyways, make sure to tune into that after USA-Panama. But now to the fixture that looks like on paper, it's quite the juicy one. A high-flying Canada under Jesse Marsh against an El Tri that has wiped out, thrown the kitchen sink, and is doing, is doing some things. And there's some exciting players in this one, Mao. So let me come to you because these are the last 5 matchups between Mexico and Canada. But is Mexico obligated to win it all? I'm not just talking about getting by against Canada or making it to this final at least to show up and show well, because we do know that the bar has been very high with Mexico. And even though Mexico have not been the Mexico of old, do they have to just win it before everybody starts panicking again a year on from the World Cup?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. One of the main reasons it is exactly what you just said, which is the amount of pressure that Javier Aguirre will find himself under if he doesn't win this game. And again, I'm doing this individually for Javier Aguirre, right? I'm not blaming the players. I'm not giving the players any credit. I'm saying Javier Aguirre. But the reason why I do it is, you guys know the federation really well. Things have been really, really bad now for over 3 years. And the reason why Javier Aguirre was asked to come back for a 3rd time being the national team manager is because, ideally, he's very pragmatic. He knows how things work. And he knows how to get to the players and make them understand, listen, right now, this is crunch time. We need to win. It's not going to be pretty. It will never be pretty under Javier Aguirre. And right now, it just doesn't have to be pretty. It has to be a win. And it has to be the first step that this team will take for the next 15 months to have as relaxed a time as it can be leading up to the World Cup. But that's why the verb is right, obligated. They have to win this game, because if they don't, I'm not saying that Javier Aguirre will lose his job, but there's a big chance that Javier Aguirre will lose his job if they don't win this game.
No way, Herc. What do you think about this one? Is there actually a chance that Aguirre could lose his job if Mexico don't go all the way in this tournament?
Well, let's see. Tata Martino didn't win the Nations League. That was the beginning of the end for Tata Martino. Diego Coca didn't win the Nations League. That was the end of Diego Coca. Jimmy Lozano didn't win the Nations League. That was the end of Jimmy Lozano. Make what you will of the tournament, that is fine, but Mexico is under this illusion that it's obligated to win everything in Concacaf because of their history. Very much the same way we put pressure on Chivas and Liga MX because of their history. Unrealistic, illogical pressure is the same way that the Mexican press and the fan base will put pressure, and the federation, on Javier Aguirre. I think it's illogical to ask them to win a tournament, to feel obligated to win a tournament that they've never won before in one of the darkest times in Mexican national team history, with one of the weakest pools, if not the weakest player pool in their history. But that is exactly what's going to happen in the circles in Mexico. If Javier Aguirre loses to Canada, let's focus on Canada. If they lose to Canada, people will be dissecting if Javier Aguirre, 15 months out from the World Cup, is the right person to lead the Mexican national team to the World Cup for about a week. And then, boom, something can change and he's out, somebody new comes in. Mao said it. We're starting from scratches. His words exactly. Ali said it too. Again, you're starting from scratch, because this is what they do. This seems to be status quo for them. So are they obligated? For them, yes. I cannot put an obligation to the Mexican national team, Javier Aguirre, to win this tournament with how things are today. But make no mistake about it, I think Mauricio's right. In this little bubble, in this setting, there is a expectation that they will win it. As unrealistic as that is today, that expectation exists.
In reading some of the statements and press conferences and things that Javier Aguirre has said to the press coming into this match and into this competition, he used a description of the players coming into this pool as there are no vacas sagradas. There are no sacred cows. That there is no sense of entitlement with this group, that you have to earn it. That the big name players are at the door and you have to show your worth and your value to this national team. Not just because it's your obligation to do so, but because you want to represent your country and you appreciate the privilege that it is to represent your country. I think this Mexican national team over the last few years have forgotten what they are at the core. And at the core, when you've played against Mexico, as I have in the past, one of the things that you appreciated and hated at the same time is how difficult it was to play against Mexico, because there was a sense of toughness about Mexican national teams that was always there. And then added to the fact that there was toughness and there was this character and mentality, they were really good with the ball at their feet. And they could keep possession forever. And they could drive you crazy with that possession. You know what they've lost? They've lost character, they've lost fight, they've lost heart, and they've lost quality on the ball. So it's hard to make an argument for Mexico right now, where we are. 15 months from now, maybe it's a different story. But I like where he's starting, Javier Aguirre. We need to get back to being that sort of team with that sort of personality. Mexico, tough, si se puede, that raza. You need to get back to that first. And then demand from your players to bring the quality as well.
Well, speaking of demanding from your players, there's a striker situation as well at Mexico right now. Mao, I'm going to come to you for this one because reports coming out of Mexico are that in terms of which Jimenez is going to start, but the reports coming out of Mexico is that Aguirre is going to go with the tried and true Raul Jimenez. We know that we're seeing a new good season with him at Fulham right now, but there is also Santi Jimenez, who is really probably one of the other bright sparks at AC Milan, as we've been talking about since his recent move there. So we expect Raul to start, but to hold off Santi, what kind of performances does Raul need to string together, and how many goals does he have to score to hold off this young buck?
That is a good question, because the number for a striker is always the way we measure them, right?
Yeah.
For a number 9, how many goals you scored? And now we can add how many contributions, right? If you also assist. But
I could have used that in the course of my career, the contributions.
exactly.
Not so much the goals, the contributions.
I wasn't scoring goals, but I was contributing a lot.
There's this other element for Henry Martin. He's called in Spanish delantero de desgaste. A rugged number 9. I'm going to do the dirty job, right? I'm going to do the dirty work for you, and then someone else is going to score. Let me go back to Raul Jimenez.
Yeah.
What kind of performance must he have, you ask? The one he had against the U.S. in the friendly in Guadalajara. That was just class Raul Jimenez. Prime Raul Jimenez. Best player on the field by far, because he was also a leader on the pitch. I loved Alex's analysis of what the Mexican national team used to be. And when he mentioned those qualities, I could see players, I could name players when he was describing that kind of attitude and performance. And right now, it's hard for me to put into just one player all of those qualities that Ale mentioned. But Raul Jimenez has that. And he has shown recently that this moment for him is truly crucial, because he's been very unlucky with the national team in terms of being important for the team at the highest stage, which is the World Cup. He barely played in 2014. He barely played in 2018. And then he had some minutes in 2022 after his accident with David Luiz. This is his time. He is the number 9. And I like Javier Aguirre's decision to start him, because one of the words we've used is consistency. And he's been consistent.
He has.
He's not going to score 25 goals in the Premier League. Not even Erling Haaland is doing it this season. But to be the number 9 at Fulham the way he's played, this is exactly how he has to perform with the national team. Different teammates, but I feel like he will still have things to prove, but I think it's his spot to lose.
Can I just ask a general question when it comes to Javier Aguirre and the striker decision? Why can you not play both of them? Why couldn't you play with 2 strikers? And actually, that would suit the style of Javier Aguirre a whole lot better, in having a line of 4 behind the 2 strikers, play a straight 4-4-2. You're far more organized, far more pragmatic defensively. You get balance, and then you have 2 strikers that can actually throw their body around and can be a threat. I don't understand why managers limit themselves to, we just got to play with 1. Yeah. If you're Mexico, why not play with 2 strikers?
That's a fair question. And I don't discard he's going to do it, but that other striker is going to be Julián Quiñones. Julián Quiñones has been scoring like crazy in Saudi Arabia. And some of the reporters, insiders for the Mexican national team informed that Javier Aguirre talked to Michel, Spanish manager who used to manage in Mexico in Pumas, and asked him, what's the best spot for Julián Quiñones on the field? And he said, as a second number 9, the way he used to play for Atlas with Julio Furch, and they won back-to-back league titles. So it is a very fair question, but I feel it's Julián Quiñones and either Raúl Jiménez or Santi Jiménez.
Herc, now, far be it from us to actually try and tell Javier Aguirre exactly what to do and how to line up his team. But when you're looking towards the future, towards the World Cup, you know, it's still over a year away. Do you stick with Raúl Jiménez because, yes, he is consistent now? Or do you give the young buck, Santi Jiménez, who is easily the one for the future, more of a chance and more of that responsibility now?
Yeah, that's a question for Javier Aguirre because everybody's been trying to give that time to Santi Jiménez. You go back to Copa America, they left off a red-hot Henry Martin, so Santi Jiménez didn't feel pressured. Santi Jiménez was the guy in Copa America, and that didn't go too well. And it wasn't because he didn't have opportunities in goal. It's because Santi Jiménez, for whatever reason, when it comes to the Mexican national team, hasn't been that guy. He's had plenty of opportunities in front of the net, and he squandered those opportunities. I understand he's young. I understand time will come. But at 23 years of age, I don't know if Javier Aguirre is thinking his time will come in the future, where Raúl Jiménez is 33 years of age right now, and arguably when it comes to the national team, in the peak of his career, in the prime of his career with the Mexican national team. Mao's right. 2014, he wasn't the guy. Oribe Peralta was one of the guys on the national team, and Chicharito was one of the players who played most in that World Cup. 2018, it was Chicharito who was the guy there. It's 2022, it was Henry Martin who ends up playing as a 9 and ends up scoring a goal in that very dark moment for the national team during that World Cup. Raúl Jiménez has never been the guy. So you're going to bank on a guy who's 33 years of age right now to still be that player, still have that moment, and hope that window doesn't close in the next 15 months when we're seeing at Fulham right now that, well, he's coming off a little sooner. Muñiz is coming on a little more. He's starting to score goals, nipping at his heels. Maybe Raúl Jiménez is getting a little tired. Maybe he's not the same player he started out at the beginning of the season, but you're hoping that translates. You're hoping that carries over to the Mexican national team. And then Santi Jiménez start off red hot, and you're hoping it's just that Milan is that bad in front of the net. You're hoping Milan's just not balanced team. They're just a team that for some reason, or the reason they're not good is their 9th place is because they don't have balance. They can't be productive in the final third and defend at the same time. You're hoping that's the reason he can't be the goal scorer that you know he could be. So it's a big question mark right now for Javier Aguirre. I don't even think Javier has the answer. He's going to go with who he thinks is the hottest hand right now, and I do think his hand is forced. He'll stay with Raúl because that's, to Mao, what he said about the Mexican national team versus the U.S. men's national team, that was his best game as of today. So he's going to have that fresh in his mind. He's going to go with Raúl Jiménez. And I think Santi Jiménez is going to be that complementary striker who comes on towards the end of games, maybe gets a game or two, but he's not going to be the guy right now.
All right, Herc, give me a quick prediction for this one. Now, as we said, arguably the juicier of the two matchups in the semifinals.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about the upside of Mexico. I think the only thing they have going for themselves right now is honestly that they're going to be playing at home in Los Angeles in front of that amazing fan base. If they sell the place out, which I think they can do, and they usually do. I know the fan base has been disenchanted with this team. It's going to be a difficult setting. But with how dynamic the Canadian men's national team and how explosive they can be and some of those determined players and the way Jesse Marsh will have them playing mentally, I think this could get ugly. I really think it get ugly. I put 3-1 in my final scoreline. I'm thinking this could be a possibility where it could really run away from Mexico and get pretty ugly here.
All right, let me go to Ale first because I know I'm going to ask two predictions.
Go.
Ale, you can't tell me because Mao's going to give me two predictions: what his head says and what his heart says.
Okay.
So Ale, what's your prediction?
Right. Truth be told, full disclosure, when I was asked about this ahead of the show, I had Canada beating Mexico 2-1. And then I heard Hercules' arguments for Canada.
And you're not convinced?
And I'm not convinced. I'm going the other way. I'm going Mexico. I'm going Mexico 2-1 because I also don't think, while Canada may be able to beat Mexico, I don't think is the difference between the two is as great as Hercules is making it out to be. So he pushed me the other way. I'm taking Mexico.
Mao, what about you? Are your head and your heart on the same page?
No.
Okay, give me both then.
What do you want to know first?
Well,
Heart or head?
Let's go with heart first.
Heart.
Mexico.
Mexico 3, Canada 0.
Okay.
That's my heart.
And your head?
Canada 1,
Oh.
Mexico 2.
hey.
Oh, he came back for it. So both head and heart's on the same page.
You're slow
He
playing
knows.
us. You're
He
slow
knows.
playing us.
He still played us. All right.
Alexis, what
Well,
about you?
Don't throw me on the spot here, guys. Honestly, I'm going to say Canada 1, Mexico 2.
Vamos! Vamos!
I still believe Mexico have
Vamos!
that fight. They need to show us that grit, but they do have that fight. And the fact that it's in Cali, come on, Mexico.
I was with you, Canada, until Hercules told us that he
Raúl
was with
Jiménez.
Sorry,
Canada.
Canada.
Brace.
We do love you, Canada, and I've never been, but I would like to go.
All right, okay.
All right, well, after Mexico goes up against Canada, you can see
Tridente.
this handsome crew
Wow.
yet again another edition of
Did
He
Football
say sin
America.
diente?
On Thursday. Make sure to tune in.